And let me tell you something. The post-40 hangover is no joke. It's a multi-day affair, and it fucking sucks. Hey everyone, I'm Mike.
I'm Andrew.
And we're the Midlife guys. How are you, Andrew?
I'm good. It's the middle of fall sports season. We're taping this in, I guess, the first day of October, which is so definitely the middle of fall. Got lots of kids' sports stuff going on. I'm a big baseball fan, and the MLB playoffs are starting or have started this week. So it's been lots of fun watching those too. How about you, Mike?
Very
How are you
cool.
doing?
I'm doing well. So this past Friday, a friend had invited me to go grab a drink. He insisted it's only going to be one or two drinks. And I told him, okay, I would meet him at this bar that we frequent. The long and short of it is that we ended up staying at that bar until midnight. Both of us saw friends and got to chatting with folks, and the night just devolved from there. And let me tell you something. The post-40 hangover is no joke. It's a multi-day affair, and it fucking sucks. My stomach felt like I had eaten a rock. I couldn't concentrate, and I was just so exhausted all Saturday. Long gone are the days of drinking and staying up until 2 a.m. in the morning. And it reminded me of that clip. So by way of background, Andrew and I are big fans of the show Scrubs when that was on. But it reminded me of that clip when Dr. Cox, played by John McGinley, goes around the table and points to Elliot, who was supposed to be in her 20s, and she was fine after a night of drinking. Carla, who was supposed to be in her 30s and was a little hungover, and Jordan, who was supposed to be in her 40s and was essentially comatose. So that was me. That was me on Saturday. I was comatose on Saturday. And it sneaks up on you too. There's no like gradual like thing when it comes to hangovers. It just seems to happen. You just wake up one day and you feel like trash. And that's kind of
it doesn't happen. You drank a lot the night before. It's not like it just pops up out of nowhere and you're like, why do I feel bad?
That's true. But I mean, it's one of those things that when I have done it in the past, it was fine the next day. Now it's not fine. It just happens.
That is true. It sneaks up.
There's no gradual descent here at all. It just happens. But that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. When we hit those midlife years, we have to make some like really, really, really radical adjustments when it comes to drinking alcohol. So I did some digging to see what the trends look like. And there's this London-based data research group called IWSR. And they specialize in working with global drink companies. And by drink companies, global drink companies, they just mean the alcohol manufacturers. So in their study, they said Generation X makes up the highest percentage of alcohol consumers at a whopping 27.5%, despite the fact that they're a fairly small percentage of the population. So, wow. Great job, Gen X.
You do you. It's all good.
I think that's why we're in so much trouble right now. It's because they are doing them. Damn Gen X. But boomers and millennials are tied at 25.5%, and Gen Z make up about 3%. But what's interesting to me is that the research shows that millennials also make up 61% of the non-alcoholic beer market and 66% of the non-alcoholic spirit market. So in an earlier episode, we talked about how midlife guys prioritize their health more than older generations, and that's clearly playing out in the data when it comes to alcohol. Now, to be clear, midlife guys are still drinking. However, their tastes have evolved. They're drinking lighter beers or canned cocktails and alternating between non-alcoholic beverages and those that contain alcohol. So there also seems to be some data that backs up the idea that midlife guys are also drinking fewer drinks, but they're drinking more high-quality drinks. So overall, with this non-alcoholic beer or spirits consumption, I think that's a pretty positive trend because we know that alcohol inherently comes with a lot of risks. Heart disease,
it's not great for you.
These things. So what are your thoughts, Andrew?
My first thought is part of me is, I guess, kind of happy you got wasted the other night because we can talk about drinking, which is kind of fun and interesting. We're also, you know, since we're talking about drinking, actually probably cutting back on drinking, I thought it would be fun to bring my beer this time to the podcast. Which you didn't have one. You had the first couple. You were had a beer,
I
so
don't. I just
left
have a
me
bottle of
hanging this
water.
time.
I'm
That's
sorry.
fine.
Yeah,
See, you're reflecting our conversation, Mike. You're cutting back.
I am. Maybe I'm still recovering from Friday.
That's a legit possibility. But your story actually also reminded me of an experience that I had a couple weeks ago. Was at a friend's wedding, and it was sort of like an island beach resort, and they were basically just like nightclubs, bars, and some restaurants there. That was people would just go there basically to party, to have fun, to relax, and whatnot. And so, um, my wife and I got there on Friday and left on Sunday. And for those sort of 2.5, 3 days, it was basically just like a couple of days of day drinking, then take a little nap, then go out at night and, get some food, but then really keep kind of partying and whatnot. And, yeah, we were feeling it for a couple of days afterwards. So I definitely can relate to you. Like as we get older, when I was in my 20s, it's like you feel a hangover. I'd go get like a breakfast sandwich, some hash browns, and I'd be fine in an hour. And now it's like, it lasts for 2 or 3 days. So I definitely feel you on that front. I think that's certainly something that happens as we get older. And I think some of those statistics you were sharing definitely resonate, at least with like my personal experience. I was kind of reflecting as we were thinking about this topic and talking about it. And, thinking back to like what how we do or what how my alcohol has kind of changed over time or my intake has changed. We have a beverage fridge, like a beer. We used to call it the beer fridge in our sunroom that used to be stocked full of beer and wine from like top to bottom. And now within the past year or two, that's slowly transitioned. There's still some beer and maybe a bottle of wine in there, but there's a lot more non-alcoholic beer, non-alcoholic cider, seltzers. So it's interesting. It's just like in our personal life, I've seen sort of like the fridge as an analogy for how we've changed our drinking habits, as like what's in there has definitely changed. And I think you're right that a lot of millennials seem to be leading the charge on the non-alcoholic options. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. There's, of course, also like a cultural component to all of this as well, in that,
Yeah.
if you go to Europe, having a glass of wine with lunch or something is not unusual.
Right.
A lot of folks do that. In the United States, that's a pretty unusual thing to do, and so people frown at you in the U.S. if you have a glass of wine with your lunch. And and there's also places like where I am in Curacao right now. It's like people will go out and drink all day long by the beach and just make a full beach day out of it. But the beer that they're drinking is so light. I mean, it's like there's barely any alcohol in it. And so that's one of those beers that you could just drink all day and you'll never actually get drunk off of it. And so there's a cultural aspect to this, as well as the fact that I think we're definitely seeing a shift globally where more and more people are finding alcohol alternatives, and I think that is a positive step.
For
But
sure. And definitely cutting back on like heavier drinking, right? I think that's the bigger thing you were sort of referencing is drinking a lot all at once versus having to be more of a social thing.
oh yeah, binge
Yeah.
drinking is the worst. It's the
Yeah.
absolute worst. But I'm curious from our listeners, guys, what does your drinking habit look like? Have you switched over to non-alcoholic alternatives? Have you cut back on drinking? Have you just eliminated alcohol? Just leave us your thoughts in the comment section. But I was making, some assumptions here, looking at those data points to see if our fellow midlifers, were looking for other alternatives
Hmm.
to alcohol to try to escape or whatever you want to call it. So I looked up some statistics from the National Institutes of Health. So, interestingly enough, pot usage has increased among middle aged people in the US over the past 5 years, growing around 30%. So it's growing, but it's not growing nearly as fast as other generations. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of states have decriminalized weed.
Yeah.
So it's much easier. to get. There's not as much of a stigma about it anymore. I
Yep.
think at one point there was definitely a stigma. But here's where, oh, go ahead, Freeman. You got comments?
I will say, jumping in, studies only it's only people who respond to studies that respond to studies, right?
That's
It's
true.
like
That's
a 5% more uptick of people who are admitting to smoke weed because it is decriminalized. So just throwing that out there.
That's true, but I mean, when we're looking at data from the National Institutes of Health, that's not coming from like they're not surveying people. This is data gathered by doctors across the U.S. So, I think that's not.
No, but people,
I think
would you admit to your doctor that you smoked weed 10 years ago versus today? I think more people today are admitting it.
For sure. Like it may have been happening,
That's a
but I think more
possibility.
people are open to it. I think too, like you just see, at least around us, like it's just more accepted as like a thing that you can do, or there are more, places to get it. Like it's become legalized. I think it definitely has made it a lot more, acceptable, or people are more open to admitting it.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I mean, I don't have any problem with that. So, but here's what I really was surprised about: the pot usage among boomers has jumped 46%. So, wow, awesome. We have all of these boomers sitting around getting baked in their 55 plus new home communities, just shoving it in our faces with all the money they have. 'Cause they have everything. Boomers.
Mike's generation warfare comes back to another show. I mean, I will say I was surprised when you had mentioned the increase amongst boomers. I probably would not have necessarily guessed that, but they're retiring, they're taking it easy. I guess they're helping to take it easy. Yeah, it's kind of the whole pot thing I find interesting too, is I think it is one of the alternatives that more people are moving towards. I will say in this area though, I am somewhat of a prude in that I've never smoked pot, and it's more about the smoking part of it. I don't like cigarettes, cigars, whatever. I just don't like the idea of smoking. But we've talked before, Mike, about edibles, and they're not super available in the area where we live yet. And to be honest, I'm too tired and lazy to like really make a huge effort to go out and to get something. But given this conversation and looking at alternatives, maybe I should try one, and we'll see what that. It'll be interesting to kind of test how it reacts differently than like having a couple of drinks.
Yeah, I mean, I will admit that I have had the occasional edible, but it's very occasional. Because, no matter how I have, whether I've smoked weed or had an edible, I always get the munchies. And no matter the strain, and I don't need that. I'm already self-conscious about my weight as it is. So filling up on junk food is a terrible idea. But I do see more and more people having edibles, weed edibles. Although I have seen some people doing shroom edibles too,
That's
which
not
is
just weed, yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But they're choosing weed or a CBD product over alcohol because they don't want to have a hangover. And I've seen a lot of people choosing that path, and I don't have a problem with that. But because hangover sucks. So, and the other thing is pot generally, especially where it's legalized, can be a lot less expensive than alcohol, which I think is another driver as to why people might be drinking less. I always, I don't know about you, but going to the grocery store and even going into the beer aisle has become kind of, I get sticker shock by what I see.
Yes.
A lot of people, you see just a 12 pack for $18.99. That's
At least $18.99, if not in the 20s.
At least $18.99.
Yeah, I mean, at least if it's like on sale, you might get that. Yeah.
And these aren't like high quality microbrew beers. This is like crap beer. I'm not going to call any beer companies out. I don't want to get sued, but these are not like really good beers in any way, shape, or form. And we have a uh, essentially a cartel that runs our liquor. So if you go into an ABC store here in Virginia, you're looking at $39.99 for a handle of bourbon,
Yeah, easily.
which is outrageous. But the cost of alcohol has gone up 17% since 2019, which has far, far outpaced inflation. So, you know, I was curious about this as well, and this this food and beverage author, I thought, put it really in a really succinct way when she said, "It's not the millennials and Gen Y are trying to drink less; they're just too broke to drink at all." So, what do you think about that, Andrew?
Feels like another theme from previous shows that we've talked about is like kind of financial pressures and all sorts of different ways and directions. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thought. Like you, I'm trying to kind of reflect on myself when I go to the store. It's definitely like there is sticker shock when it comes to I think spirits, but also definitely beer and wine. I know it used to be where like now if I'm buying beer or wine, I'm almost always looking for what's on sale. And instead of getting like a couple six packs to have, drinks just whenever we want them, it's like, oh, maybe I'll just get one now or something. Or just one bottle of wine instead of having like three or four around the house. So I do think I'm not sure if the price is the primary or the sole reason I'm doing that. I think some of it is health benefits, just changing taste, kind of, consuming things in a different way. But I think at least subconsciously, price definitely does play a part in it and is kind of impacting how I'm thinking about the behavior that I'm doing or kind of what I want to pick up or don't want to pick up. And I kind of feel like that's reflected in a lot of conversations I've had with midlifers who have cut back on drinking or stop drinking altogether. And they don't ever lead with, like price being the reason. It's usually health benefits are the big one. But then the conversations kind of like, oh, hey, I save a bunch of money kind of comes up too. So I think it's there. And there's something to that idea of just how expensive it's gotten that it gives you another reason to think like, oh, it's probably better for me to do this anyway. Maybe I want to try something different, but it's also going to save me some money. That's just another benefit to maybe think about drinking in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. A lot of our friends and those in our friend circle have given up. I wouldn't say given up completely, but have definitely reduced their alcohol consumption to just special occasions. Although some friends make up what that special occasion might be. I don't think
Yeah,
a
I don't know,
football
but yeah,
game should be a special occasion, but that's just my
that's a
personal.
special occasion.
It is a special occasion, but you don't necessarily have to drink for a football game. Birthdays,
No,
sure.
that's true. I mean, I do think, but what you're maybe hitting on too, at least what I've experienced with like friends and what I've seen in my life has been a lot of. But it feels like it's always been social, right? But the idea of like, oh, I'm going to come home and have a drink like every night at dinner or have like a couple beers after dinner, like that's definitely changed. I feel like when we were younger, that was more common. And now it's moved more towards just like a social thing. Like maybe we are getting together with a group and we'll have like one or two drinks and hang out. But I think to me, that's the dynamic that's changed. It feels like the frequency is different and it is more of becoming more of a social thing and cutting back on like the heavy drinking, like a bunch all at once so you don't get the hangover. I feel like it's sort of a 1-2 punch in my experience, at least.
Yeah, I mean, you know, going back to the price for just a second, and then I want to talk about something else. Is that I'm not on the side of runaway inflation, but if inflation is what's moving the needle, so where people drink less, then I can't argue with those results. Um, Drinking carries enormous risks for your physical and mental health. But in thinking about this as well, one of the really shitty parts about this period in our life, and I know both you and I have experienced this, is that our parents are starting to have more and more health issues. And as a result, we're going to automatically think about our own mortality. And so, I look at our friends and even some of the actions that we have taken as a result of having parents either sick or even unfortunately pass away. And we're clearly making healthier decisions about what we put on our body as a result of what we've seen our parents go through. Thoughts
Yeah, I
on
think
that?
yeah, I mean, I think that's probably true. Like that's got to impact you. And I mean, fortunately, we both of our parents are still alive, which is great. But yeah, as you get older, you do have different health issues that pop up, and I think that there's no way that that doesn't change or impact you. You know, the thing that I've noticed somewhat recently is I've also been surprised by the number of friends, and it's not a ton, but there are a couple I can think of friends who've had health scares in their 40s, and that probably has woken me up even more. I'm like, I really need to like be more careful about not just drinking, but like cholesterol intake or other stuff that you don't really think about when you're younger, or at least I didn't think about when I was younger, because, you know, you just never really put on weight and you could eat whatever you want and everything seemed fine. But now, like having seen some other friends have health scares like that, to me, like parents for sure, it's something that impacts you. But I think it's people in our generation that are starting to have those health scares are really what's kind of woken me up to like, oh, we need to kind of change some things about how like diet, exercise, drinking, all that stuff. Like really kind of look at how we're treating ourselves, because it's only going to go downhill physically from here. So we got to take care of what we've got.
Wow, that's a really bright note.
I know it was, yeah.
No, but
Maybe not true,
you're
but I mean,
right.
it's true. Like your body's not going to get, yeah. We're not getting any younger. Maybe that's a nicer way to put it.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we have had friends that have had significant health scares and have had to be in the hospital, which is terrifying. Because we've got some friends younger than us that have had these health scares. And, I am already on cholesterol medicine, which is super fun. But, it just comes with the territory when you hit a certain age. And I can't change my genetics because my parents have high cholesterol. So
Yep.
it was bound and determined to happen at some point. So, I think it's a good thing that our generation is really taking this more seriously. And I think, and I really appreciate that. And I'm actually optimistic that if these trends hold for the foreseeable future, our generation is going to have a much better health outcomes when we hit those retirement years or those golden years.
Hopefully we will. Yeah. I think the other thing that's kind of interesting too, and again, I don't know if this is just our experience or if it's broader, so I'd love to hear what other people kind of think or their experiences, is I feel like at least with friends of ours that I can think of who've had health scares too, just more of a willingness to be open to talk about it some more and to share kind of like what that experience was like and what led to it and what happened. Whereas I feel like as a kid, and maybe it's just because you're a kid or when I was younger, like no one ever really talked about like health stuff really, or like, Aunt so-and-so had this happen and this means you need to change X, Y, Z or whatnot. So I do think that's part of it too, is just having more open conversations about those of us who maybe have some sort of health challenge we've got to go through, or a scare pops up, or, you get some sort of diagnosis, and let's just like be more open about it and not try to hide it, because we can all hopefully not just support one another through that, but benefit from knowing what others are going through and kind of what led them to where they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we have to share this information. I know when we talk about some of the friends that have had health scares, we didn't know about those health scares until like a month after it had happened.
Some of them, yeah, that's true.
Which, it is not necessarily a good thing to hide this information. I think that is an indication of like somewhat of a breakdown in how you feel you can talk to your friends. But I also feel like, to your point, we can all learn from what happens to one another. We can learn from one another. And I think, and again, that's what we were trying to do, or what we are trying to do with this podcast, is to create a platform where guys in their middle age can talk about these things open and honestly, because that has not been a strength of ours.
It's fair.
And so
yeah.
we need to do that. We've got to do that. So please, if you've got a story to share, please leave it in the comments. Or if you want us to talk about, your experience, please let us know.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good segue too to something I was going to mention, and not to kind of take us on a different tangent, but you're talking about building that community. Reminded me we're taping this, and the first couple episodes have been put out so far, and more are coming. But just to say to everyone who has listened or watched, thank you. Hopefully, you all want to stick around, but definitely make sure to continue to engage with us to the extent that you feel comfortable doing that. We love to get feedback and to hear what you all think. But I will just say it's been kind of fun to see people engaging with us one-on-one or sending notes or seeing people kind of watching and listening to the podcast. So that's been kind of a cool experience, and hopefully that'll keep growing too as we keep doing these.
It has been fun. It has been so cool getting emails, getting messages, also just seeing where people are viewing our YouTube videos and listening to the podcast, because we got a lot of people in the UK who are also watching us,
really?
which is
Oh,
pretty
fun.
cool.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's pretty cool. Love that for us. But yeah, I want to echo Andrew's sentiment. Thank you all so much for your feedback as we continue to tape more episodes and share our experiences with you. With that, thank you for joining us. Tell your friends to subscribe, leave comments and your feedback. And until next week, good luck, guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
You guys should celebrate with a drink now. Cheers.
Oh, I will. Cheers. Thank you. Good idea.
A water bottle.